Hello there. Welcome to another edition of Lexicon Late Night, featuring myself and Justin, your favorite Blinks. So today we have quite a different episode than usual. It's one from this millennium.
Okay, this is unusual for us.
It is unusual for us. It's George Orwell, usually from 100 years ago. It's Dr. Dre from 30 years ago.
I thought our interest ended in 1999.
Me too, but we're going pop for this one.
Okay.
We're going mainstream.
So who are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about the phenomenon that is BLACKPINK.
BLACKPINK in your area.
That's it. That's it. Very cool.
That's the corporate version. Yeah, as you can see, we're very hip. We're listening to the same stuff the young kids are into.
Exactly. On the cutting edge of BLACKPINK 7 years after they came out.
Right, exactly.
So, of course, this is not our usual subject matter. We're usually talking about business lessons for business leaders based on storytelling from the greatest storytellers of all time. So, does BLACKPINK qualify as some of the greatest storytellers of all time, Justin?
It's hard to say because they mostly sing in Korean, so we don't really know what they're saying. We can't tell if they're great storytellers. Although I've seen some of the subtitles, and to be honest, most of their songs are gibberish like most pop music. The one line that springs to mind is kick in the door, wave in the call. That one bugs me a little bit because obviously it's inspired by Biggie's line, kick in the door, wave in the full, right? Which is intimidating. But apparently this girl's kicking in the door and waving her Coco Chanel.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a very light door.
Sure. And it's a very dramatic entrance to show off your new handbag or whatever. Like, boom. Hey, look what I bought.
Yeah. It's probably a Japanese kind of like silk door or something.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I think we need a bit more preamble than usual to justify why
Sure.
this is a subject that is qualified to be on such a prestigious show as this.
Yeah. Well, they are probably the biggest girl group in the world today.
Group, arguably.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, for sure. And Lisa here in Thailand is probably the most famous Thai person on the planet, at least.
Yeah.
They've got billions of streams, billions of views on all their YouTube videos, like literally billions. They're headlining shows all over the USA. They've gone from like a K-pop phenomenon to an actual global phenomenon. So there's some lessons that we can learn as to why they're so successful.
Yeah, not to be too hyperbolic with this, but
Okay.
I see some parallels to Beatlemania. Bear with me.
Okay.
So prior to the Beatles, there wasn't pop music as we understand it today. The Beatles put in their 10,000 hours, which we'll come back to later, and then they took over America. She Loves You, Yeah, 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 all that kind of stuff, Mop Top, Fab Four. They changed the whole pop landscape. They led the British invasion. They changed the landscape of American music forever. The same, I think, is happening with BLACKPINK. Like, who could have imagined in our generation that you would have not just Korean language music, but any non-English language music at number 1 in the charts, number 2 in the charts, headlining Coachella. They're trailblazers. They're defining a zeitgeist, which I think is changing the landscape of pop forever in the same way that Beatlemania did. And we'll get into it more throughout the episode, but there's something truly disruptive happening here, which we can learn lessons from for businesses.
They're a disruptor brand.
They are indeed.
Yeah, they're a challenger brand.
Exactly. No nonsense.
I mean, on the one hand, it's a little depressing that that's it. Like we go from the Beatles, classic songs like "I Want to Hold Your Hand," "She Loves You," yeah, and now we're going to "do-do-do-do-do-do," which doesn't really mean anything, but
Just as catchy.
yeah, it is catchy, and I don't think you can deny that there's some parallels there for sure. Because yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
There's
here.
there's four of them.
There's 4 of them. They're the Fab Four.
They're from not America.
They're from not America, and they're really changing the face of pop music today. So that's the world we live in.
Indeed it is. So let's jump straight into the lessons then. So what have you got for us first, Justin?
Okay, well, before we show any clips, so these guys, they're part of YG Entertainment, right? That's their record label, their management company. And so they actually had to be in a training camp for 6 years. They did boot camp, essentially, for 6 years before they made their debut in 2016. So we've got some clips just to show the amount of work that they actually put in.
Don't act like you forgot. I call a shot. Like blah, blah, blah. Y'all should know me well enough. Better have my back. Better have. Better have. Better have. Better have my money. My money. My money. My money. Better have my money. My money. Have my money. 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 Better have my money. My money. Have my money. My money. Better have my money. Don't act like you forgot. Don't act like you forgot. Don't act like you forgot. Like you should. Don't act like you forgot. Bitch, better have my money.
Cool clip, seeing them so young like that. But it's wild to me that exists in Korea. Like the idea of, I want to call it a sweatshop or slave labor, but it's unpaid, like 6 years of hardcore drilling and training and like all these dance moves, all the singing. If you eat a cheeseburger, you're out because you're getting too fat. You can't have a boyfriend. You got to stay on campus. It's so intense. Like it's unbelievable that they would submit themselves to that, or even that it's legal potentially. But obviously the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, although not everybody who goes into the training camp gets to join BLACKPINK. So it's crazy amount of dedication and work. The Koreans, they took the concept of like a boy group or a girl group, like Backstreet Boys, Spice Girls, or whatever, because that was, you know, manufactured by record labels back in the 90s, and that was intense as well. But they just took it to a whole other level of intensity.
Yeah, because we'll talk about it much more throughout this video, but it's like the best of all of those things, right? They've got the pop hits, the dance moves, they've got the beats, they've got everything. Like it's really like a factory producing this perfect vision of a pop star on pop music.
It's perfectly manufactured.
Yeah.
What's funny, so far you're coming off as way more of a Blink than I am.
Oh.
And they have some very rabid, dedicated fans online. So it would be kind of ironic if this episode of Lexicon Late Night goes viral. And then there's all these people in the comments hating me and loving you for being a true Blink.
Praise Allah.
All right. So we talked about the amount of work that they put in, but we've also talked about how, you know, this is a production company, right? So they're not necessarily coming up with all this stuff themselves. They're not coming up with the music or the lyrics. So that actually brings us to our first clip here. So we're gonna have a look at their producer.
Okay.
Roll the clip.
Can't get you out of my head.
Rosie, a Korean girl that was raised in Australia. And she stays here till like 6 o'clock a.m. just in the studio. Sometimes I'm like, wow, you're still here?
Can't get you out of my head. 밤새 비워낸 병에 색은 blue.
Oh, you already killed that one. Jisoo, straight up Korean girl that grew up in Korea. She's the 언니 of the group. She's the oldest.
I'm ready for love, I'm ready for love.
She does have that professional poker face. I've known Jisoo for, let's say, a good 6 years. Seen her cry once. She's super smart. A lot of people might think she's book smart, but I would say she's street smart.
I'm ready for love, I'm ready for love. 오, 깜짝이야.
Lisa from Thailand. She's always got that cool, calm, it's gonna be okay, we're all good, smile.
I'm ready for love, I'm ready for love.
But when it comes to certain moments, you know, when the music starts, when it's crunch time, she has this executioner killer instinct.
기다릴 것도 없잖아.
Jenny, born in Korea, but moved to New Zealand.
색깔을 보여줘.
She's super clear, her opinions, her emotions. She's a perfectionist. All those different cultures in one pot, it's just different how they walk, how they talk, and how they dress. And the perfect balance, how they complement each other. It's fascinating.
Yeah, so that's their producer, Teddy. still very much living the COVID life with his mask.
Indeed.
But he's kind of the brains behind the operation. You can see how each of them have their own personalities that all gel together perfectly. And he writes all the lyrics and he produces the music.
Yep.
I'm not even sure that's accurate.
It is
he
accurate.
writes the lyrics.
Yeah, he writes the lyrics, he produces the music. But, I mean, I think people probably have a sense of where our zeitgeist is at. It's South Park, it's Eminem, it's Dr. Dre, as per our previous episodes. But this guy's actually a good producer. Like, he produces beats that could have been from, 50 Cent's first album or...
Right.
It's like, he's actually making good
some
beats.
throwbacks to, like, in the club style beats. It's like some Dr. Dre inspired stuff in there.
Yeah, so, like, it's not your usual, like, we talk about Backstreet Boys and Spice Girls and Westlife and all this kind of stuff. The music was terrible. Like, it was such trash music. So it was manufactured and it was trash. I can kind of forgive the manufacturing of it when it's actually a pretty good product.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously there's so much that goes beyond just the production, the music and the lyrics and their personalities. Their videos are always super creative. So there's crazy set designs, crazy costumes. So there's a whole team obviously behind them working to make them so successful.
Exactly.
So
one talented artist on their own can't do all of those things. You have them as an influential thought leader, if you will, and they have this whole team behind them, as you said, which is helping them create that success in the same way, actually, now I think about it, that many of our clients actually use us in a similar way.
yeah, absolutely. So Jenny, Lisa, Jisoo, and Rosie, they're like the C-suite of a company.
Yes.
And then Teddy there is basically their David Norcross. He's their chief marketing officer behind the scenes.
Does that make you the choreographer? Or?
Yeah, okay, so we're both Teddy.
All right.
Because I'm writing a lot of the lyrics and producing a lot of the beats
Right. With the hit squad.
for our clients. Yeah, we're just churning out hit after hit.
Right.
Check out the views on LinkedIn, we'll back it up.
So, absolutely, there is a correlation there, a corollary, an equivalency between the pop music superstars of the day and the back-end squad. And just like with the girls you mentioned, BLACKPINK, the whole team, they are talented, no doubt, and they're brilliant. And we're going to look at that in a moment. But there's no success individually, and especially in the age of AI, where things are changing so rapidly. You focus on your core, outsource everything else to the experts at the back end, let them handle that stuff for you.
Yeah, we talked about the same sort of lesson during the Dr. Dre episode. He knew where his strengths were, and he got other people to write the lyrics, to do the actual music behind the production. Like, he's not the one playing the keyboards. He's got Scott Storch. He's got Eminem writing a lot of the lyrics. And so there's definitely no shame in that. Like, you're the face, you're your brand. You need to have your own unique tone of voice. But if you can have somebody helping you behind the scenes, producing content for you, as long as they know your tone of voice, they know what you're supposed to sound like, they can create content for you that's on brand and on message. That's definitely a way to succeed, just like BLACKPINK.
Exactly. So let's say you're a law firm, for example, right? You're crushing it in the law room.
In the law room.
In the law room, top dog. No one's stopping you in the law room. Or the court.
The
maybe.
court? The boardroom?
The court, yeah. No one's stopping you in the court. But if you're spending all your time then trying to also do marketing and write opinion pieces and manage videographers, that's a waste of time for a CEO of a law firm. And the same is true of any firm, pretty much. Like, why would you want to focus on the things that are not core to your business? Like, if Jenny was spending all of her time writing terrible lyrics and not practicing dancing, they wouldn't be the same group. Same with Lisa. If she was just thinking about writing choruses instead of improving her singing skills, then they would fail.
Or her rapping skills.
Yes.
She does do both.
She is a dope rapper.
She actually is pretty good. Snow cone chili, get it free like Willie. In the jeans like Billy, you be popping like a Willie. That's embarrassing that I know that.
It's pretty much Tupac. I'd say.
Yeah, it's on par.
Right.
With all that being said, so they've got this team working behind the scenes to support them. They're focusing on the things that they need to focus on to make the group successful. But that doesn't mean that they're not putting in a tremendous amount of work. Like, we already spoke at the beginning about how they were basically in training camp for 6 years of boot camp in order to get even into the group to make their debut. But even then, even now, they're still working really hard. So a follow-up to the training clip video that we showed earlier, let's have another look at this clip.
How you like that? You gon' like that? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. How you like that? How you like that? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. How you like that? Now, look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. How you like that?
Justin, how'd you like that?
Yeah. Look at you, now look at me. I like it just fine.
All right.
It's nice to look at.
It is nice to look at. It's nice to look at. But I think they're not just a pretty face. Like, obviously, the hours that they put in that video there, it's a 3-minute video, whatever it is, there are hundreds of different moves to do. And they have to be in sync perfectly. Like that, I could never do that. Just watching that gives me anxiety. The ability to remember all of those moves in time, in correlation with everybody else.
And imagine you mess up the very last move.
Yeah.
Like, Jenny again.
So they've really got talent. They're not just a manufactured group. They've actually got some real skills behind them. And I think the same's true with most of these K-pop bands for the reasons that you mentioned. They've got that training camp. They're just training every day. So they're just military precision level kind of dancing. It's
Right.
kind of
They should
incredible.
send videos of BLACKPINK dancing to North Korea just to intimidate them. Look at how organized we are. Can you do this?
Yeah, you can do this across the battlefield.
Yeah, your parades have nothing on this level of precision.
But obviously, Justin, you don't just get there overnight.
No. You need to put in your 10,000 hours, as it were.
10,000 hours, exactly. What is the 10,000 hours thing?
So this is from a Malcolm Gladwell book. Do you remember the title of that specific book? Was it
Outliers.
Outliers, right. So to become a master at any craft, you really do need to put in 10,000 hours. You were talking about the Beatles earlier on. So they were playing in the same bar in Liverpool, in the same pub,
Hamburg.
right? Oh, in Hamburg?
Yep.
Germany.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. And they were just like doing 3-hour sets.
6 hour sets.
6-hour sets.
Every night, 7 days a
Every
week.
night, 7 days a week. So that by the time they actually got famous, people go, oh, these guys came out of nowhere. No, they put in the hours behind the scenes, and it's the same with BLACKPINK. Now I'm doing it too, equating BLACKPINK to the Beatles.
There we go. Yeah, so for the Beatles, they were performing the pop hits of the day, but they had to fill up all those hours. So they'd be writing their own songs, they'd be playing together, they'd be riffing together. So when they actually made it big, they'd already mastered the craft. And the same's true with any kind of business skill that you want to learn. If you're a content writer and you've been doing it for a year, you're not a good content writer yet. Nobody could be. To master the craft, it needs 10,000 hours. And I think again, the ethics of it may be dubious, but these K-pop groups, they really do put in those hours, probably 100,000 hours.
Yeah. I think if you're a business leader, you've definitely already put in those hours. You've gotten to the point where you are for a reason, which means you have genuine expertise that other people don't have and that your audience will want to hear.
For sure. Definitely when it comes to thought leadership, but also like there's new skills coming out, right? So like the understanding of robotics and ChatGPT, it's probably not worth investing 10,000 hours into those things. Like if you're a CEO, you've already put your hours in, just focus on doing that thing really well.
And then get somebody else to put in the 10,000 hours on ChatGPT.
Exactly, exactly. But I think it's a great lesson. When I read that book, it really stood out as what Steve Jobs is in there, Bill Gates is in there, the Beatles are in there. That's all I can remember. But each of them had
Some athletes as well, right?
Yeah, and it was obviously core skill. They had ability, but they also had opportunity. So Bill Gates was in one of the few schools in America that had a computer. And then the third and most important thing was the perseverance. So even though they had a natural ability, they kept going. They kept putting the hours in. They didn't just presume they were good enough. So to really succeed, to really become a master, it's the sweat as much as anything else that has to go into it.
Yeah, so stay tuned for episode 10,000 of Lexicon Late Night.
Only 9,992 to go.
Yeah.
91 to go.
Yeah, exactly. So they've put in the hours. They've got a great team behind them. why didn't they just stay in Korea? They're obviously massive there. How did they break in to America and to the global audience?
That's a great question. So I think a lot of these bands that when they're formed, they've got international audiences in mind.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rose grew up in Australia.
New Zealand, I think.
I think Jenny was in New Zealand for a
Okay,
while.
all right.
See, Lisa's
See,
Thai.
he's the real Blink.
But then all of these other groups, they've got all these mixed people, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. So
Lisa is a crazy one because she's from Buriram, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so just north of Thailand, like country girl. And the fact that she won some contests that let her go into the boot camp to begin with. Hey, here's your prize, 6 years of military training.
In a country where you don't speak the language.
Yeah, so she learned how to speak Korean. She's rapping in English and Korean.
Yeah.
She's an amazingly talented dancer.
Absolutely.
So there's no surprise why she's so popular.
Absolutely. Yeah, but these groups, obviously, there's a big plan in place from the production to the videos, to the dancing, to the lyrics. But they're not just thinking in terms of being K-pop. They're thinking about just global pop.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at some of the ways that they're reaching out into other countries.
Right. So, I mean, we've got plenty of clips that we could show. They've collaborated with Lady Gaga. All of my favorites here. Lady Gaga, Dua Lipa, Selena Gomez with Ice Cream. I was rapping Lisa's parts earlier, so I can't deny that I like that song. And then there's some interesting other stuff they've been doing. Like, so they all each have their own solo careers to some extent. Jenny and Lisa definitely being the more popular ones.
I think Jisoo's
Jisoo started. Oh yeah, she does have the yeah. And then does Rosie have a solo
one,
career
yeah.
as well? Yeah. So they're branching out. It's kind of like the Wu-Tang approach, right? Where you got the Wu-Tang Clan and the RZA had this mastermind thing of like, okay, so our first album is the group. But then we go with the solo albums. We make ODB a star in his own right. We make Method Man a star in his own right. So that's how we take over the hip hop world. That's exactly what BLACKPINK is doing.
I think we're building back credibility now with that. That's good. That's good.
Sure.
That's good for the homies.
Sure. And then there's this song here with DJ Snake, Ozuna, Megan Thee Stallion, and of course Lisa from BLACKPINK. So that's pretty interesting because it's spanning 3 continents. It's like truly global music. DJ Snake is a French producer / DJ. Ozuna is from Puerto Rico. Megan Thee Stallion, obviously from America, and then Lisa from Thailand / Korea.
Yeah, I think one of the things that it's really quite obvious from the BLACKPINK songs is that while most of it might be in Korean, the chorus is usually in English. Which, I mean, when you think about most pop songs, like, you don't really remember the lyrics, you remember the chorus.
Yeah, na, 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 it's a shutdown.
Exactly. Can you think of the lyrics to It
How
Wasn't
you
Me by Shaggy? Any of the lyrics apart from the words It Wasn't Me?
Yeah, but that's mainly because Shaggy is incomprehensible. This is not making it into
But
a snippet.
most pop songs are like that though. Like you just remember the chorus, the rest of it just throw away
They're just
nonsense.
sort of background music and then the catchy hook.
Exactly. So what they've mastered is the incredible catchy hook, and in English, so it's global, which allows them to be on the radio all over the world because the production's good too. And then obviously, as you mentioned, they're doing good outreach too. So they're partnering with other performers, they're appearing on their tracks and vice versa, breaking into new markets. I mean, it's a very smart business play, to be honest.
It is, yeah. So like, start out nationally, take over your own country, and then conquer the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just with sound bites, basically.
Right. So what is the lesson here for business leaders?
That's a great question, Justin. So the same lessons are essentially true with business people. So we're in the marketing sphere. We reach out to clients, friends, partners, enemies even sometimes, even people within our own industry to partner up. And whether it's researching together, being on podcasts like this together, speaking at events together, there's a benefit to just positioning yourself as a helpful guide from a business owner's perspective. You don't have to always be competing with everybody. Like we're all trying to achieve the same goal, which is to ultimately position ourselves as good and helpful to the same target audience. So even though Dua Lipa and Jenny might have the same target audience, they can still collaborate. There's enough room for everybody.
Yes, collaboration. It definitely shows that you're willing to rise above your, narrow aims of purely making money, which is obviously why anybody's in business to begin with. But ultimately, you can succeed even more if you show that you're willing to collaborate with others in order to help your potential customers and your existing customers, right?
Yeah. Plus, it can be fun sometimes to get out of your comfort zone. And even if you're in an area that you're not usually in, it can still be fun. Like for us as a company during the pandemic, I appeared on a Beers with Peers podcast that was live streamed on Clubhouse for like the 2 weeks that was around.
Yeah, hey, I forgot about Clubhouse.
I was with Poe in the studio recently on a salacious, spicy podcast.
Yeah, that was very spicy.
But it's all good, right? Just like with BLACKPINK, be with other people who are influential, enjoy your time with them. If business comes from it, great. If not, you're building collaborations, partnerships, and as long as you're motivated by being helpful and being a good guide, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. All dialogue is positive.
Indubitably.
All right, so to recap here, lessons for business leaders from BLACKPINK. Number one, no shame in having a team behind you. You need a lot of people. You may be the face of your brand, but you need a lot of people working behind the scenes. So you need ghostwriters, you need video producers, you need set designers, you need people making your beats. You need a team behind you in order to succeed, right? No shame in having a ghostwriter. That's lesson one. That wasn't very concise. Lesson two, put in the work, put in the 10,000 hours. Malcolm Gladwell would approve of BLACKPINK. And lesson number three, collaborate, branch out, take advantage of outreach opportunities, work with other people to help your audience.
That's a LinkedIn clip right there. So to wrap it up then, great lessons. I guess no one's going to watch the end bit. If anyone's sticking around, fair enough. But BLACKPINK might be breaking up, I believe, as we record this.
Yeah, well, we actually maybe should have covered this in the intro. In preparation for this episode, I did a little bit of research, and apparently Jisoo let slip to some reporters that it seems like they're all going to agree to the terms of their next contract.
Okay, nice.
So it seems like they won't actually be breaking
So
up.
the phenomenon will continue.
Yes, because it would have been funny to release this episode right as they're breaking up. It's like we completely missed the wave.
It would have been on brand, though. It would have been
Yeah.
like, we only speak about people who are either dead or like way out of date.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if we're going to do another episode about a pop group anytime soon. We probably will eventually, but I think next time let's go heavy on the intellectual stuff. Let's find somebody really smart.
Albert Einstein.
Albert Einstein. He's got a great brand, iconic.
Solid MC.
MC squared.
All right, with that, thank you for watching if you stayed around this long, and go Blinks.
Go Blinks. Look at you now, look at me. Hit you with that.